America, I know this is not what you want to hear at all, but we need to talk. I feel I should apologize to some extent for refraining from making this show at all political for this season. Kind of touch on it and that sort of thing, but I really didn't want it to become that sort of thing, honestly. I felt that we were getting enough of it from everywhere else, that this was some place where we didn't need that to happen. And I guess maybe I didn't make this idea of a choice really clear. You know, it was definitely affected by the fact that I've been sick the past couple of weeks, and, you know, it got a bit disorganized. I understand that, but oh my god. So, a couple of days ago, I was coming back. It was about 3 a.m. from DAP, you know, getting one of my projects finished, that sort of thing, and that's when I heard the news. And I'll be honest, I don't think that I'll ever forget that. I walked in my house, and one of my roommates was still up, and he just screamed. And I knew exactly what that meant. I hadn't really been keeping a close attention, because like I said, I've been working on a project the entire night, but I just heard that scream, and I knew exactly what it meant. And the weirdest part is the first thought that came to my head was not the particular candidate that won or the particular candidate that lost. It was more of the message that was sent by that decision being made the way that it was. The fact that we as a nation came together and said, hey, this is probably a good idea. It really doesn't even matter the ignorance behind that decision, more so than just, holy crap, we are okay with this. This is something that's not only gotten this far into this bizarre campaign, but it succeeded. And we as a nation rallied behind this message of hate, and here we are. And it's a really, really awkward time for a lot of us, most of us. Oh, that's a bitter joke. But the point of it is that, oh my god, that night I could not sleep a wink. I was just up all night thinking. I didn't know what else to do with myself. I couldn't fall asleep. I didn't want to eat. I didn't feel comfortable at all. And I was thinking of how all this was going to unfold, not in the distance, you know, when Trump is inaugurated, but in the present time. What kind of message we're sending out to the minority groups? What kind of message we're sending to our children? To know that the behavior of this horrific individual has not only been deemed acceptable, but enough to be spoken on, enough for that individual to speak on all of our behalf. And not just locally, not domestically, but internationally. That's a very, very grim, that's a very, very scary thought right there. And when I was contemplating all of this, when I was digesting this, way into the early hours of the morning, Wednesday morning, I couldn't help but remember something that happened to me, an event that I was surrounded by as a child, actually. In 1998, there was a young boy named Anthony Harris. He was 12 years old, and he was convicted of murder. I only know this particularly because my biological father actually was the man who represented him in court. There was no evidence leading to even insinuate that this person had murdered anyone whatsoever. He was a black young man who happened to be in the neighborhood, 12 years old, not even a young man. And they picked him up, they bullied him into a confession. They didn't let him see his mom, they didn't let him call a lawyer. They sat back and said, this is acceptable. And being, you know, the son of the lawyer who was defending this individual, my family was very, very unsettled by that. We could not live in the small rural county of Tuscarawas. It was not something we felt comfortable with. We felt exiled by our community. We couldn't accept that as a form of reality. You can't step away from that and think, okay, you know, I can still live amongst these individuals, because there's this huge layer of hate washing over everything. And yes, it's not direct, but it's there, and apparently we're comfortable with that. And that's disturbing. On so many levels, I don't know where to begin. He was convicted in 98 and exonerated, thankfully, 2 years later. But in those 2 years, enough damage was done to change a person's life, many people's lives, forever. And thankfully, Anthony Harris was effectively able to sue the prosecutor. as well as the county of Tuscarawas for a very large sum of money. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this person's rights were completely infringed upon. An entire community was acceptable on letting that happen. And I don't see how it's that much different than what's going on right now. I don't understand how people can sit back and let this happen. How people did sit back and let this happen. And it's sickening. And I'm puzzled by this same situation, this very similar process on where I have to now, as many of you out there, figure out how to live amongst such hatred, knowing that it's always there, but perhaps not directly pointed at us. And I'm not sure that's better, honestly. Because I certainly can't sit idly by and just accept that. That just feels disgusting. That's the word that keeps coming into my mind over and over again. I keep reiterating it. And there's nothing else that really just paints it just than that. And I am limited with my vocabulary due to the fact that I'm broadcasting. But it's disgusting. This was a scary choice, and the fact that we acted upon that in the most negative way that we could to, just completely ignore compassion. We had a calling. We were asked to stand up and be united as a whole, despite any pre-existing condition to your biological form. And we turned that away. And that's really, really hard to forgive. And that means that there's a shit ton of healing needing to happen. And I'm a fairly cynical individual at that, aspect. And frankly, I'm blown away because I did not know it was this bad. I had no idea that it was truly this big of a problem. And so what do we do? It's very, very confusing because I don't understand why America is so tolerant to fascism. And I am referring to the fact that we had to be attacked at Pearl Harbor in order for us to declare war on Japan. We didn't even touch Germany still. We knew they were doing horrible things over there through this idealism of fascism, and we were okay with it. And that's what this feels like again, is that we are just tolerant towards fascism for some reason. It really confuses me. And I'm sorry to get serious on you for this moment here, because it doesn't feel good, honestly. But I knew coming into the studio tonight, which I was very, very concerned with, I knew that if I didn't say something, I would regret it. And so I want to thank you for listening, at least. And know that if you don't have someone to talk to about this kind of stuff, if you desperately need to be heard as well, and you don't have anyone who's willing to listen, you can contact me on the Teej page. That's TEEJ on Facebook. And I would love to hear what you have to say. Because right now is a time for us to be vocal. Right now is a time for us to be upset. Because 2 days ago, when we were first given this decision, well, not first, but when we were given the final decision, we didn't stand up for it. We didn't stand up for ourselves or our neighbor. And I think that that's the last time that we can make that mistake. That may have been the last time that we could make that mistake. But I'm trying to stay optimistic and positive in this regard. That you need to be vocal. You need to say what's on your mind. And you need to stand up for what is right. And if you don't want to do that, if you're not committed to doing that sort of thing, then we've already lost. It's over. And we should just give up. But I'm not going to do that. I can't. I refuse. And I really hope that together we can do something against this. Because the Lord knows something has to happen. And you really can't be waiting for the next person to do something. It starts with you. It starts with change. That's the funny thing about change that for some reason this country doesn't quite understand. Is that it comes from the inside out. You can't take this magical pill and all of a sudden everything's going to be fixed. We've been doing that in dieting for over 3 decades, and it doesn't work. I'm sorry. It's going to be hard, it's going to be grueling, and it's not going to be easy. But it's the right thing to do, and it's what is being asked of us. And we need to stand up for it. I'll try to have some jokes next time we come back. In the meantime, I got some music for you.